Hey guys, welcome to MashUp Games. This is the 4th development video on the game I've been working on, Project Dungeon. I've managed to get a lot more mechanics down in this month, and the first mechanic I'll be talking about is probably the one that you may have already noticed, which is the dungeon map in the upper right corner. When each floor is generated, a function is called after its generation to get the floor plan into a view that the player can read. To start, it will only show the one room that the player is currently in, but that is because the idea is that the player builds the map as they go through the floor. The room that the player is currently in is marked with a more opaque white colour, and when a player enters a new room, that room then becomes highlighted. When a new room is exited, it doesn't go back to being hidden, but instead turns into translucent white colour. Along with that and the floor generation, I decided to redo the way that it performs a generation. So before it used a prefab for each type of room, but now instead it just uses the one singular room prefab, and then after all the rooms are generated, each floor is then altered, so that the player can move between the rooms. It also can generate the rooms going up, but the problem is that right now the player cannot move up a room due to the room being completely empty, so the player can't get on any platforms or anything to actually go up. Now I don't know for sure what form these are going to take or how exactly they're going to work with the game, but I also made save points. The player can currently save their name and position in a serialized file that can be overwritten or loaded. Right now it has taken the form of an unlit campfire, as the idea I have for these save points are that they're found in dungeons and a way for the player to save their progress in a dungeon if they want to quit the game and pick up where they left off later. Of course, when the player dies, then all their progress is mostly reset, and then the game will save itself and place the player back in the main hub to avoid the player restarting the game to get back to before they died. I also upgraded the player jump mechanic, allowing the player to stay airborne longer if they hold down the jump button. Using the code I wrote for the player attack mechanic, it then became very easy to add the player shield mechanic. It works in the same way that the sword does in terms of aiming, but apart from that I haven't been able yet to test if it's actually effective at shielding from enemy attacks, due to the lack of enemies and their attacks. But right now it seems to be working okay. Now the last thing I added was something I was kind of dreading, as it involved the use of the mouse or the joystick, and that is the player bow and arrow mechanic. When the player holds down a button, it will go into arrow firing mode, and the player can aim by pulling back with the mouse. The arrow trajectory is estimated using a line renderer, and then when the player lets go of the button, then an arrow is instantiated and shot. And when it hits an object, it will freeze its position and be destroyed after 15 seconds to make it look like the arrow has been stuck into the object it hit. Now of course this will only really work if your arrow hits an object that is static. So on moving objects right now, it would not have the same effect. But also if it hits an enemy, then the arrow will just disappear and deal damage to the enemy. And that's it for this month. I wanted to keep this devlog a bit short as I won't have a lot of time to get this video done, but if you want to know more in depth how I did some of this stuff, then drop a comment down below. And if you're wondering about if I am changing to hand-drawn art, I am still considering it, but I haven't been able to draw any player animations that I've been happy with so far. So I will work on that a bit more in the meantime and come to a conclusion later. And don't forget there is a MashUp Games Discord server you can join to join in with discussions about the game and ask me any questions. The link is in the description. I'll be happy to go more in depth on there if you want to join. If you've liked this video, then please like and subscribe. This is MashUp Games, signing out.